Tortured, forgotten, and isolated, she only survived because he was crazy enough to try. Nevada Desert, United States. Year, 2086. The desert stretched like an open wound beneath the setting sun. Raw, endless, forgotten. Heat waves danced above the cracked earth, and the only signs of life were bones half buried in sand, bleached by years of silence. Satellites didn't scan this region. No civilian dared fly over it. Maps called it Sector 9. The military called it Outpost Orpheus. 3 stories underground, where light didn't reach and sound became your enemy. Something still breathed. Barely. She was called Subject Zeta 93. But to the guards, she was simply Bluebird, a nickname meant to mock the hue of her skin, which shimmered like crushed sapphires under the dim, flickering lights. Her hair, once braided with precision by the traditions of her people, now hung in tangled sheets, soaked in sweat and blood. Her body bore the marks of 7 days of enhanced questioning, though what they wanted from her, she no longer knew. Maybe they didn't want answers. Maybe they just wanted to see what made her scream. The ones who came every 6 hours weren't all human. The Arcanites, tall, bone-pale humanoids with eyes like cracked glass, worked alongside a Black Ops division of the U.S. military. It was a joint effort, a containment alliance signed after first contact. But what the media never knew was that some aliens weren't just visitors. Some had been here long before us, and some, like her, weren't allies. But she hadn't come to invade. She had fled, escaped a warlike fracture on the moons of Chrysan 4. Her craft crash-landed 2 weeks ago in what humans called New Mexico. Before she could even stand, they surrounded her, tagged her, tranquilized her. They didn't care who she was, only that she was other. The cold slab she was strapped to now was the only thing she knew of Earth. She blinked. Once. Twice. Breathing shallow. Focusing her mind the way her ancestors taught. Through pain. Through memory. Then the lights above her flickered. Far above, outside the compound, a lone figure watched the desert die under twilight. Elias Ward had once been a decorated staff sergeant in the U.S. Space Recon Corps. After Europa Station fell, after his sister's scream echoed through his neural comm for the last time, he walked away. Technically, he was discharged. The file said unstable, potentially compromised. They couldn't prove he'd seen something no one else had. But he had, and he never forgot it. Now, 34, unshaven, scars down his left arm like claw marks, he crouched behind a rusted fuel tank beside a stolen recon jeep. Wind lashed his coat against his legs. His fingers, calloused and cracked, gripped a rifle with a plasma cell, mod no civilian should own. He wasn't here on assignment. He wasn't here for vengeance. He was here because, 2 nights ago, a signal had broken through his shortwave receiver, something buried in static, encrypted in a language not of Earth. A voice. Female. Help me. I'm not one of them. Please someone. It had hit him like a thunderclap. Not just because it was alien, not just because he understood it, but because the sound of it, the cadence, the restrained desperation, it had sounded like Kara, his sister, the one they'd said never existed after the Europa blackout. The world had moved on. He hadn't. Elias spent the next 48 hours decoding the signal. It led him here, to coordinates that didn't exist, pointing to a facility no one admitted to. And now, in the dying light of day, he saw it. Just a sliver of steel, disguised as part of the canyon wall. Hidden, but not invincible. He studied the terrain. Heat signatures minimal, thermal dampeners running high. Standard for high clearance ops. But there were blind spots. Old habits kicked in. He mapped his route mentally. For cameras. 2 guards. 1 blind corner. He could get in. Maybe. He reached into his coat and pulled out the only thing he carried besides weapons. A photo. Kara. Blonde. Smiling with the stars behind her. Years before Europa Station vanished. He tucked it back into his pocket. The mission wasn't about her. It was about this one now. The alien girl, Bluebird. Tortured. Trapped. Maybe already dying. But not forgotten. Not if he had anything to say about it. He slung his rifle, checked the charge, then moved, low and fast across the rocks. Every muscle in his body had been broken and rebuilt by war. But this time he didn't need precision. He needed fury and silence. Underground, Zeta 93 felt something shift. Not physically, emotionally. Some instinct deeper than biology, some ancestral warning system buried in her bones, told her something was coming. Someone. Her vision blurred. Her mind pulsed against the sedative cloud. Then it happened. A tremor. Small. Rhythmic. Footsteps. No, not human. Not Arcanite. This was different. Closer now. Air pressure shifted. She heard a sound she hadn't heard in days. Gunfire. One shot. Suppressed. Then another. Then a wet, heavy sound. Impact. Then silence. The hallway beyond her cell hissed as the door began to open. Her heart thudded. If this was another torture cycle, she wouldn't survive it. Not again. The lights above her surged. And then she saw him. Human. Dirty. Bleeding. Breathing like he'd sprinted through fire. His eyes locked on hers. And for the first time in a week, she wasn't alone. The cell stank of chemicals, fear, and scorched flesh. But Elias didn't flinch. His eyes scanned the room with the precision of a soldier. Corners first, shadows second. The alien girl, Bluebird, was strapped to a surgical frame with restraints carved into her skin. Tubes hung from her arms, leaking violet blood onto the cold steel beneath her. Her breathing was shallow, chest barely rising. Elias approached cautiously, pulse hammering. He'd prepared for a lot of things. A trap, a failed rescue, maybe even death, but not for this. Not for someone so human in pain and so alien in form. Her skin shimmered in layers of iridescent blues, almost translucent in places. Her eyes, when they finally opened, were pitch black, but wet with exhaustion. She didn't speak. She just watched him, barely conscious, as if trying to decide whether he was real or a hallucination. He reached into his belt pouch, pulled out a combat knife, and started cutting the restraints. Her body twitched with each snap of the bindings. When the final strap came loose, she collapsed forward. Elias caught her just in time, his arms sliding under her to prevent her from hitting the floor. "You're safe," he whispered. "I'm getting you out." But she didn't react. Her body trembled in his grip, too weak to speak, too broken to run. A siren howled somewhere down the corridor. Red emergency lights slammed on, painting the sterile walls in pulses of blood-colored light. Elias cursed under his breath. He'd taken out the first wave of guards with silent shots, but now the Arcanites would know, and they didn't come quietly. He hoisted her over his shoulder with effort. She was light, but his ribs screamed from the earlier impact with the security turret. He staggered toward the door, eyes locked on the corridor ahead. Metal rang under his boots. Behind them, the restraints on the surgical slab twitched back into place, resetting like hungry jaws. Bluebird stirred as they reached the corridor. Her head lolled against Elias's shoulder. Where are you taking me?" she murmured in a voice like static wind. "Somewhere they can't hurt you." "You're not one of them," she whispered. "Not anymore." She managed to lift her head slightly, just enough to see his face. Scars. Human eyes. But there was something behind them. Rage, yes, but also mercy. A rare thing. "They'll follow," she said. "They never stop." "I'll make them," he answered, not slowing. They turned a corner, straight into a laser blast. The wall behind Elias exploded into sparks. He dropped low, instinct taking over, and slid behind a console. Bluebird slipped from his shoulder and hit the ground with a sharp cry. Elias didn't even look. He just turned, aimed, and fired. 1, 2, 3 shots. Then silence. He crawled to her, checking for injury. Just a scraped elbow. Nothing fatal. But the shock had reopened a gash on her hip. She winced as he applied pressure. "I can walk," she said weakly. "Not yet. We got 2 floors and a dozen bastard between us and the surface. You'll walk when you're free." "You speak like a fighter," she said. "But you're afraid." Elias looked at her, surprised. "Damn right I'm afraid. I'm not stupid." "No," she said. "You're human." As they moved deeper into the hallway, Bluebird began to regain fragments of her strength. Not enough to run, but enough to speak. Her voice was low and musical, like sound refracted through water. "They tortured me because they wanted the codes," she said. "Codes. To my ship. To my planet. To my people. I wouldn't give them." Elias nodded, absorbing the information, but keeping focus ahead. "Smart. They broke bones that regrow. They poison blood that adapts. They wanted more than more secrets. They wanted to know if we could feel pain. He looked at her, jaw tightening. They got their answer. Yes, she said, and then, after a long pause, but not all of it. They didn't break my mind. Then we got a shot. Another hallway, another corner. This one led to a sealed blast door. Elias cursed. Shit. Auto lockdown. There's a manual override panel, she said, pointing. There. He rushed to the panel, started rewiring. Sparks flew as he forced a connection bypass. The override required dual biometric access. He'd already faked the human signature, but he needed an alien's. Touch the panel, he said. Now. Bluebird hesitated. If I do this, they'll trace me. My blood is coded. My biosignature. They already know. You're bleeding all over their floor. This is our shot. She pressed her hand to the panel. For a moment, nothing. Then the lights turned green. The door hissed open. They moved into a storage bay filled with decommissioned exosuits and weapon crates. Elias stopped for breath, leaning her gently against the crate. He dug out a ration pack and offered it to her. She took it but didn't eat. Why did you come? She asked suddenly. You don't know me. You don't know what I am. I heard your voice, Elias said, and no one else was coming. That's not reason enough to die. Maybe not, but it's enough for me. She studied him for a long moment. Humans are strange. You'll get used to us. I don't want to. That makes two of us. They shared a look, brief, tense, but something passed between them. A flicker of recognition. Two beings broken by war, not enemies, not friends, just survivors with nothing left to lose. Then the floor shook. They're sending the heavy unit, Bluebird said, voice tight. An Arcanite hunter class. You'll never outrun it. Elias checked his rifle. I wasn't planning to. The walls of the old storage bay began to tremble, dust sifting from the ceiling in faint clouds. The low, resonant thudding wasn't human. It was the sound of something built for pursuit, not negotiation. Elias knew that rhythm. He had nightmares that marched to that beat. The Arcanite hunter class. An apex predator in biomechanical armor. Designed not just to kill, but to humiliate whatever it caught. He slung his rifle over his shoulder and crouched beside Bluebird, who still leaned weakly against the supply crate, clutching her side. You can't fight that thing, she said, voice brittle. I don't plan to fight it. He scanned the room, eyes sharp. I plan to slow it down while you escape. She blinked at him. No, that's not acceptable. Didn't ask for your permission. I didn't survive 7 days of torture just to watch you sacrifice yourself like an idiot. Elias gave her a half smirk. Good. That means you've still got fight in you. She narrowed her black eyes. You talk like pain is your friend. I've known it longer than most people. Before she could respond, the bay door behind them shuddered. A deep metallic groan followed by the shriek of warping steel. Something on the other side was tearing through the bulkhead with bare claws. Elias moved fast. He popped open a weapons locker, found a pair of low-yield thermite charges and a canister grenade. He tossed the grenade into Bluebird's lap. You ever use one of these? She looked down at the device, then back at him. We had something similar during the Rupture Wars. Great. Then you'll manage. The door groaned again. Another 5 seconds, maybe less. Elias pressed a charge against the opposite wall, then cracked open a vent panel beside it. That tunnel leads to the next floor. Crawl through. Follow the red conduit lines. You'll hit a lift shaft. And what about you? I'll buy you 5 minutes. I don't need 5. I need you alive. He paused. The words hit harder than the siren, now screaming behind them. But before either could say anything more, the bay door exploded inward. It stood twice the height of a man. Thick, armored plating covered its body like the exoskeleton of a beetle. Its arms ended in multi-jointed claws, and where a face should have been, there was only a vertical slit glowing with pulsing red light. The Arcanite hunter let out a shriek that pierced the air like a blade. The temperature dropped instantly. Its armor emitted a localized cryo field meant to slow reaction times and weaken structural integrity of barriers. Elias stepped between the monster and Bluebird, leveling his rifle. Go, he said without turning. Now. Bluebird hesitated. Then, dragging herself up, she dove into the vent. The hunter moved. Elias opened fire. The shots slammed into the hunter's chest and shoulders, but the creature didn't even flinch. Its armor deflected most of the kinetic impact, sparks flying. It lunged, faster than something that size had any right to move. Elias barely rolled aside, the claws slicing the crate behind him clean in half. He dropped a thermite charge and kicked it toward the beast. It ignited on impact, coating its legs in a wave of molten orange fire. The hunter screamed, not in pain, but in rage, and swiped through the flames like they were smoke. The blast knocked Elias off his feet. He hit the wall hard, ribs screaming. Blood filled his mouth. His ears rang. His rifle was gone. The hunter advanced, smoke coiling from its armor. It raised one massive claw, aiming for the kill. Then came the boom. Bluebird had circled back. She emerged from the vent behind the creature, pulled the pin on the grenade Elias had given her, and slammed it against the joint of its leg. The explosion blew the hunter sideways into the wall. Elias coughed hard and pulled himself upright. I told you to run. I didn't survive this long to be saved by a coward who dies mid-sentence. He laughed despite the pain. You're insane. You're bleeding. That's normal. She helped him up, one of her arms wrapping around his waist, his around her shoulders. Her skin was cold, ice from the cryo field. She was shivering. So was he. We don't have long, she said. Elias nodded. Then let's move. They stumbled through the vent tunnel together, smoke trailing behind them. Alarms howled louder now, a mechanical chorus of panic and containment. Somewhere above, more guards were mobilizing. At the end of the tunnel, they dropped into a service hallway where the floor hummed with generator vibrations. Bluebird collapsed the moment they landed. Elias helped her to her feet. I'm not going to make it out, she said softly. Shut up. You're making it. You don't understand. My body isn't healing right. They used a compound. It disrupts regeneration. My systems are degrading. He stared at her. I just need one moment outside, she said. One moment under open sky. Then I can die. No, you don't get to say that. You don't get to give up. For a long moment, they just looked at each other. Not human and alien. Just two beings drowning in the same storm. Then Elias said, You want to see the sky? Then help me blow a hole through their last checkpoint. The final corridor to the elevator was sealed with a security door built from neutron-resistant alloy. Elias could disable it, but it would take time. He handed Bluebird the rifle. She held it awkwardly, fingers long and angular against the human weapon. I'll hold them off, she said. You work. I thought you didn't like sacrifice. I'm just buying you 5 minutes. Elias almost smiled. Touché. He set to work on the panel. Sparks flew. Sweat poured down his back. Bluebird crouched behind a pillar, rifle steady. Her breathing shallow, but focused. Footsteps echoed in the corridor. The next wave was coming, and there were more of them. The hallway lights strobed red, white, red, like a heartbeat gone berserk. The air was thick with ozone and static. The hum of boots and metallic limbs grew louder. Elias worked fast, fingers blackened with soot as he ripped the access panel open and began cross-wiring circuits with nothing but instinct and rage. Bluebird crouched 10 feet behind him, the stolen rifle shaking slightly in her grip. Her alien physiology wasn't designed for this kind of human tech, but adrenaline was universal. She kept the barrel trained on the corner where the next wave of guards would appear. I count 6, she said. 2 Arcanites for humans. Do me a favor, Elias said, not looking up. Don't miss. I wasn't planning to. Then came the sound they were waiting for. Boots against steel. Shadows lengthened on the corridor wall. The first soldier appeared in full body armor, weapon drawn. Bluebird fired. The shot took him directly in the chest, throwing him backward with a scream. She adjusted fast, dropping a second with a short burst. The Arcanites moved differently, faster, more fluid, and when they rounded the corner, one of them deflected her shot with a kinetic shield. They advanced like predators. Elias, now it'll be good, she shouted. Almost there, he muttered, crossing 2 wires and hitting the main switch. Sparks burst from the control box, and for a second, nothing happened. Then the door began to open. Only halfway. That's the best it's going to do, Elias said, grabbing Bluebird's arm. Move. They sprinted toward the elevator. A plasma shot missed Elias by inches, burning a streak into the wall beside him. Bluebird turned mid-run and fired behind them, covering their escape. One of the Arcanites collapsed in a twisted heap. The other roared, rushing forward. The moment they hit the elevator threshold, Elias spun around and slammed his hand on the manual override. The door started closing, but not fast enough. The remaining Arcanite dove forward, clawed hand outstretched. Bluebird didn't hesitate. She lunged, kicking the creature square in the face, just as the door slammed shut and severed its arm with a wet crack. The limbs spasmed on the floor, leaking green-blue fluid. Both of them collapsed against the wall of the lift, breathing hard. That, Elias panted, was reckless. "You're welcome." The elevator hummed as it began to rise. They rode in silence for several seconds. The air between them was thick, not just with tension, but with something shifting. A new weight. Bluebird pressed her head against the metal wall, her skin pale and damp. "How far to the surface?" "Less than a minute," Elias said, glancing at the screen. "Assuming they haven't blocked the hatch." "They will. Then I'll blow it." She turned to him. "You're willing to die for this?" He looked at her, sweat running down his jaw. "I didn't come here to die." "Then why did you come?" He hesitated, then said, "Because no one else did." Her eyes searched his, dark and endless. For a brief moment, the sounds of war above them seemed far away. "Where I'm from, we believe that a life saved binds two souls in a silent pact." "That sounds poetic." "It's not. It's a warning." "Why?" "Because one of us always dies." The elevator groaned as it neared the final level. The doors slid open with a hiss of steam. They stepped into chaos. Above them, the night sky bled through a partially collapsed ceiling. Moonlight streamed in pale and cold. But the room itself was carnage, bodies, fires, smoke curling in ribbons. The exit platform was across the room, half buried in rubble. Two dropships hovered beyond the perimeter, and on the far side of the hangar stood a black armored figure. Another hunter, but this one was different. Bigger, smarter, elite. Recognition scan, Bluebird whispered. "That's Commander HFY. Let me guess. He doesn't do negotiation. He doesn't do survivors." Elias handed her a second weapon, a sidearm from his belt. "Let's make sure he doesn't either." They moved low, dodging behind wreckage, trading fire with the few remaining troops guarding the exit. Bluebird's aim was surgical now, her instincts taking over. Her body had gone beyond fatigue, into something primal. Elias reached a support beam and attached his last thermite charge. "Once this blows, the ceiling's coming down. We'll be buried, only if we're still here." But as they prepared to make the final sprint to the platform, HFY stepped forward. His armor split at the sides, revealing biomechanical weapons, coils that hummed with destructive energy. "You are outnumbered," he called, voice distorted and metallic. "And out of time." Elias raised his weapon. "Maybe, but we only need one shot," Bluebird added. The commander raised his arm and fired. Time slowed. The blast tore through the air, and Elias shoved Bluebird to the side, just as it struck him square in the chest. He flew backward, slammed into the wall, and crumpled. "No!" Bluebird screamed. She crawled to him, eyes wide. His chest plate was smoking, cracked but intact. He groaned, blood trickling from his mouth. "I said I wasn't here to die," he muttered. Bluebird stood, trembling, rage building inside her like a tidal wave. She turned toward HFY. He aimed again. She moved first. With speed no human could track, she leapt, twisted midair, and landed directly in front of the commander. She pressed the thermite charge Elias had set, now ripped from the wall, directly into his chest. "Wrong species," she whispered. The blast lit up the hangar. HFY's body crumpled, molten and screaming. Smoke choked the air. The platform shook. Bluebird dragged Elias toward the lift pad as one of the dropships landed. A human figure stepped out, a rogue pilot Elias had called in as backup, waiting for a signal that never came. They barely made it onto the ship before the ceiling began to collapse. The platform gave way. Dust and steel rained down. The pilot pulled up hard, and the ship shot into the sky. Inside the dropship, Elias coughed and opened one eye. "We alive." Bluebird leaned over him, hair hanging like a blue curtain between them. "We are." He laughed, then winced. "Good, because that hurt like hell." She looked at him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then she said softly, "If you've ever believed in love that wasn't supposed to exist, then maybe you'll understand what this means." And she kissed him, not out of romance, Not out of gratitude, out of survival, out of connection, out of something human she was still learning how to feel. If you've ever rooted for an impossible love, if you believe in connections that defy biology and war, subscribe to the channel. There are more stories like this waiting for you. The dropship soared through the night sky, engines humming low and steady as it cut across the blackness like a blade. Below them, the Nevada desert stretched for miles, burnt, broken, silent. Behind them, Outpost Orpheus had collapsed into itself. Fire still bloomed along the horizon like fading memories. Elias lay on the floor of the ship's hold, a makeshift bandage pressed against his chest. His armor had taken most of the hit, but not all. Every breath came with a jagged edge. His skin was clammy, his pulse uneven. Bluebird sat beside him, knees drawn to her chest, arms wrapped around them. She stared at nothing. Her blue hair, matted with blood and sweat, clung to her face in wild strands. Her gaze wasn't on Elias. It wasn't on the desert. It was somewhere far, across galaxies, across trauma. I need to stabilize him, the pilot said from the cockpit. A tall woman, dark-skinned and sharp-eyed, dressed in Rebel Fleet fatigues. He's losing blood fast. There's a medkit? Bluebird asked. Under the bench. Orange case. She grabbed it without hesitation and dropped to her knees beside Elias. His eyelids fluttered. Don't look so worried, he mumbled. I've survived worse. No, she said softly. You haven't. She unsealed the kit and began working quickly, applying sealant foam to the wound, checking for internal bleeding with trembling hands. She'd never used human tech like this, but she'd watched, learned, adapted. He groaned when she touched a cracked rib. Sorry, she whispered. It's fine, he said through clenched teeth. You're better than most field medics I had. That's depressing. Welcome to Earth. 10 minutes later, he was stable, barely. The dropship was flying on stealth mode toward a rebel outpost buried near the Sierra Nevada range. But they had another hour before arrival. Bluebird sat back, wiping blood from her fingers. You should sleep. I can't, Elias said. Because of pain? No, because I don't know what happens next. She looked at him. Her black eyes reflected his face, pale and bruised. I mean, you're free, he continued. You could leave Earth. Go back to your people. You don't owe me anything. I know. So, are you going? She was silent for a long time. Then, I don't know if I have people left. He blinked. What do you mean? The war that sent me here. I wasn't just fleeing. I was exiled. Why can't we have rules? Cold ones. I broke them. I saved civilians during a prohibited extraction. My own commanders labeled me defective. So they abandoned you. Yes. He exhaled slowly. Sounds familiar. They sat in silence, side by side on the steel floor, not touching, but close enough to feel each other's breathing. The war hadn't ended. It had simply gone quiet around them. The kind of quiet that makes survivors wonder why they're still alive. 30 minutes later, the ship hit turbulence. Minor, but jarring. Elias grimaced as his body jolted. Bluebird moved fast, steadying him. The pilot called back. We got a problem. Elias forced himself upright. Talk to me. Tracking signal. Low band. We're being followed. Bluebird's face went cold. Impossible. I scrubbed the transponder. We disabled their network. Someone's pinging you directly, the pilot said. Not the ship. You. Bluebird's stomach twisted. She understood instantly. The compound in her blood. The same one they used to suppress her healing. It also acted as a tracker. She stood. Land the ship. Elias blinked. What? You need to get clear. I'll draw them away. No. You're injured. I don't care. If they catch us both, this was all for nothing. We didn't just crawl through hell so you could walk back into it. She looked at him. Then what do you suggest? Rip the tracker out. There was a long silence. Then, quietly, she said, it's not that simple. It's woven into my circulatory matrix. Removing it might kill me. He stared at her. She stared back. The ship rocked again, this time harder. I have to try, she said. Otherwise, they'll never stop. The pilot adjusted altitude, slowing to a hover just above a dry canyon basin. Elias helped Bluebird to the medbay corner of the hold, where a surgical scanner flickered to life. It painted her body in light, revealing a pulsing red filament threaded along her spine and through her left arm. That's it, she said. That's the tracker strand. Elias grabbed a dermal injector and a cauterizer. If I pull this out, you'll bleed fast. You'll go into shock. I know. He hesitated. Her hand touched his wrist. If I don't make it, you will. But if I don't, remember me not as what I was, but what I became in that cell. Because of you. He nodded, jaw locked tight. Then he began. The procedure took less than 5 minutes, but it felt like a lifetime. Bluebird screamed once, only once, and then fell silent, biting down on a ragged breath. The moment the filament snapped free from her vein, her body went limp. Elias sealed the wound with the cauterizer and held her head in his lap, whispering her name again and again. Stay with me, he said. Bluebird, don't do this. You're free now. You did it. You're free. Her eyes fluttered open, barely. I'm not free, she whispered. Not until they stop hunting others. Then she passed out. They flew the rest of the way in silence. When they arrived at the Sierra base, medics rushed her off the ship. Elias tried to follow, but the pilot stopped him. She's alive, the pilot said. They'll take care of her. You need rest too. She's not just another alien, Elias murmured. She's not just a rescue. I know, the pilot said gently. Anyone who saw you carry her out of hell would know. He leaned against the bulkhead, finally letting himself breathe. His ribs ached. His soul felt heavier than ever. But somewhere in the medical wing, Bluebird was alive. And that was enough for now. The lights in the Rebel med bay were soft, golden, almost too gentle for a place built to treat war wounds. But maybe that was the point. Even fighters needed softness sometimes. Even fugitives deserve peace, if only briefly. Bluebird lay on the bio bed, motionless but stable. Her skin, once dull and gray-blue from blood loss, now held its glow again. Pale sapphire with soft pulses of light beneath the surface, like veins of starlight. Tubes ran from her arms to a tank of stabilizing nutrients designed for non-human biology. The medics said she would wake up, but no one knew when. Elias sat at her side. 3 cracked ribs, concussion, burn across his lower back. But he refused to be moved. She saved my life, he told the medic who tried to escort him to his quarters. Twice. She'll be unconscious for a while, the medic replied. I'll wait. Hours passed. The base was quiet. The world outside went on burning in secret wars and silent betrayals. But here, time froze. Elias watched the soft rise and fall of her chest, the slow blink of the monitors, and his thoughts began to drift, not to the pain, not to the mission, but to her. Not just who she was, but what she meant. He had saved her. That part was clear. But somewhere in the fire, somewhere between bullets and screams, she had saved him too. From rage, from guilt, from being just another broken soldier with no reason to wake up tomorrow. He remembered the way she had looked at him in that elevator. The kiss, unexpected, not romantic, not rehearsed, just real. The first real thing in his life since the station fell. She woke 12 hours later. Her first word was his name, not spoken exactly, but breathed like a memory returning. Elias. He leaned forward, hands trembling. I'm here. She blinked, adjusting to the light. We made it. You made it. She turned her head slowly, registering the tubes, the bandages. I should be dead. You're not. I pulled a tracker. You went into shock, but you stabilized. Her eyes met his. You stayed. Yeah, I do that sometimes. I didn't think you would. I didn't think you'd come back through that vent and blow up a war machine. But here we are. She smiled. Faint, but it was the first time he'd seen her do it, and it hit him like a bullet straight through the heart. Over the next few days, she recovered fast, faster than the medics expected. Her body, once suppressed by foreign toxins, began to rebuild itself. Bones realigned, cells regenerated. The glowing patterns in her skin brightened with every passing hour. Elias helped her walk again, one step at a time through the corridors of the underground base. At first, she resisted pride, maybe, or fear, but she let him stay close. Let him steady her. Let him see her when she was weak. They talked. Not much, but enough. She told him her real name. It couldn't be spoken in English, but she let him call her by the closest translation, Sarah. He told her about Kara, his sister, lost to a blackout on Europa. How he never got to bury her. How no one even believed she existed. After Europa, he said, I stopped looking for meaning. I just wanted to shoot back at something. And now? Sarah asked. I think I want to stop running. Maybe start building something. With me. The question was soft. Vulnerable. He looked at her. Yes. One night, they sat on the upper deck of the base under a clear dome, watching the stars. She traced constellations with one glowing fingertip against the glass. Your stars are scattered compared to mine, but some shapes still echo. Think that means something. Maybe. He turned to her. What happens now? I don't know. You said your people exiled you, but they might still be out there. I don't think I want to find them. What? Because I'm not who I was when I left them. He nodded. Neither am I. She shifted closer. Her head rested lightly against his shoulder. The contact was natural now. Familiar. I was born in silence, she whispered. We don't touch much, where I come from. Emotions are private. Pain is concealed. Love is conditional, performance-based. And here, everything is loud. Even the kindness. I'm still learning how to exist in it. You're doing fine. They sat like that for a long time, breathing together. No sirens. No enemies. Just gravity and the sky. Later that night, Sarah returned to the medbay alone. She stood in front of a mirror and looked at herself. Really looked. The bruises had faded. The scars were healing. But the reflections still felt strange. Not because of the pain. Because of the hope. Hope had no place in the kind of life she'd led. It was dangerous. It made you reckless. It made you trust. But now, she carried it in her chest like a second heartbeat. Quiet. Reluctant. But alive. The next morning, she found Elias in the repair bay, fixing a rusted-out comms drone. You're rebuilding tech now? She asked. Old habits, he said. I was a systems engineer before the Corps. She smiled. You never told me that. You never asked. I thought you were just a soldier. He shrugged. Maybe I was. Maybe I still am. But I'd rather build than break. Sarah leaned against the doorway. Her eyes glowed faintly. I've decided something, she said. What's that? I don't want to leave Earth. Not yet. Elias looked at her, pausing his work. Good, he said. Because I wasn't going anywhere either. It began with a flicker. A faint glitch in a holographic sky dome above the rebel base. Most wouldn't notice, but Sarah did. She was sensitive to pattern, to energy. Her species evolved on a planet where storms announced themselves through gravity shifts and light distortions. This glitch, it was unnatural. She stood in the courtyard, arms folded, her skin shimmering under the artificial moonlight. She narrowed her eyes, watching the shimmer grow. Elias joined her moments later, sipping coffee from a dented steel mug. You see it too? He asked. She nodded. Someone scanning us. From orbit. No, from here. A cloaked drone, maybe, or something worse. Could be a recon probe, Elias said, scouting for survivors. It's not human. That was all he needed to hear. 15 minutes later, alarms blared across the base. The command center lit up with warning signals. An unauthorized atmospheric breach had been detected just beyond the canyon wall. They scrambled defense teams. Shields activated. Drones launched. Too late. The air outside exploded in a silent pulse of gravity distortion. Then a figure emerged from the smoke, gliding on anti-grav thrusters. Sleek, black-armored, alien, a collector-class Arcanite. They weren't soldiers. They were erasers. Where hunters destroyed, collectors harvested. Memories, data, organs. Their appearance meant one thing. Someone high up wanted Sarah back. Alive or not, she stood frozen in the command deck, watching the live feed from the outer cameras. Her voice dropped to a whisper. It's for me. Elias grabbed his rifle. Then we sent a message. The rebel commander shook his head. This base is not equipped for that kind of tech. You want to fight that thing, you do it outside. Away from here. We can't outrun it, Sarah said. If we don't face it, it'll tear through this base like paper. Elias turned to her. Then we stopped running. She looked at him. Uncertain, afraid, furious. Then nodded. They stepped into the desert together, 20 meters beyond the perimeter. Sand whipped around them, the wind sharp with static. Sarah's skin glowed bright now, patterns shifting across her arms like war paint. The collector waited for them, motionless, 6 feet tall, its face covered in a mirrored mask that distorted its surroundings. In its left hand, A spined weapon pulsed with violet energy. "You are in possession of protected property," it said, voice hollow and layered in translation. "I'm not property," Sarah replied. "Disavowed or not, your neural imprint belongs to the Arcanite Directive. You'll have to tear it from my body," she said. "That is acceptable." And it moved. The fight was brutal, fast, inhuman. Elias fired first, rounds slamming into the collector's shield field, distorting the air. It countered with a blast that split the ground open. Sand erupted. Sarah launched herself sideways, flipping in midair, hurling a plasma charge from her wrist. The explosion staggered the collector, but only for a second. It recovered, lunging forward, striking Elias with a concussive wave that sent him flying across the rocks. He hit hard, groaned, "Stay down." Sarah screamed and attacked, fists glowing, her entire body pulsing with power. She moved with a fluidity not of Earth. A war dance passed through generations of her people. She landed blow after blow, but the collector adapted. It caught her arm, twisted, and drove its weapon into her side. She choked on blood, stumbled, and then she collapsed. Elias dragged himself upright, half-dazed, ribs screaming. He saw Sarah on the ground, unmoving. Something cracked open inside him. He let go of reason, let go of tactics. He charged, weaponless, broken, screaming. The collector turned, almost amused. It raised its blade again, and Elias tackled it with full force, knocking it off balance. They crashed into the canyon wall, dust billowing around them. The collector struck him again, a hard blow to the chest, another to the face. Elias went down, but he didn't stop. He crawled. He reached Sarah, her eyes open barely. "Why did you come back?" "Because you're not dying without me." He pressed his hand to the wound in her side. "I can't save you," he said, "but maybe you can save both of us." She blinked. Her hands reached for him, shaky, weak. She touched his forehead. Then something ignited between them. Her kind had a final defense, rarely used, often fatal. A neural cascade, where two minds fused temporarily to overload a threat. She'd never tried it with a human. But Elias wasn't just human anymore. He had fought with her, bled with her, believed her. That was enough. She let go of the fear and let him in. Their bodies glowed, his veins lighting up like stars, her skin like a living nebula. The air cracked around them as energy surged outward. The collector froze, sensing the shift. Too late. Together, their minds lashed out, raw, pure, unified. The collector screamed, a psychic cry. Its systems overloaded, its armor cracked, and with one final burst of energy, it exploded. Silence fell. Dust hung in the air like a memory. Elias collapsed beside her. Their bodies were smoking, trembling, still pulsing with the aftershock of the neural fusion. "You alive?" he asked, barely conscious. "I think so. That was stupid." "Yes. Let's not do it again." She smiled, blood on her lips. "Agreed." They lay there for what felt like forever. No more enemies. No more running. Just breath, heartbeat, pain, and something unspoken blooming between them. Real, messy, human. She reached out, took his hand. He didn't let go. The sun was just beginning to rise over the Nevada horizon, casting long, golden beams across the broken canyon. In the soft light, the wreckage of the battle seemed unreal, like something from a forgotten dream. The collector's remains lay twisted and charred in the dust. Its armor cracked like shattered glass. The violet core inside it still faintly glowing as it died out. Sarah sat beside Elias on a flat rock, overlooking the wreckage. Her side was wrapped in fresh bandages, stained with blue-violet blood. Elias had a sling around his left arm, 3 cracked ribs, and enough bruises to fill a medical chart, but he was alive. They both were. Neither spoke at first. The silence wasn't awkward. It was earned. The medics had found them an hour after the blast, unconscious but intact. No signs of neural damage, though their minds had been fused temporarily in a way no human or alien had seen before. The rebel scientists wanted to study it. The commanders wanted to debrief it. But Elias had said no. For now, they needed time, not analysis. Sarah had agreed. Now they watched the sunrise like people who weren't sure if they still belonged to the world that was waking up. Is this what victory feels like? Elias asked eventually. Sarah tilted her head. No. He raised an eyebrow. It feels like surviving, she said. Victory is something others declare. Survival, that's ours. He chuckled under his breath. You really know how to make a sunrise sound intense. She smiled faintly. It's just the way I see things. I like the way you see things. She glanced at him. I'm still adjusting to seeing with someone else. Later that morning, they returned to the base. The halls felt different now. Less like a bunker, more like a refuge. People nodded to them in the corridor. A few even clapped Elias on the back. One rebel gave Sarah a quiet, respectful bow. She didn't know what to do with that. Respect was not a currency she'd ever been offered before. Elias noticed. They saw what you did. That wasn't just survival. That was a statement. I didn't mean to be a symbol. You're not. What then? You're a reason. A reason for what? To keep fighting. To protect. To believe. She looked away, uncomfortable, but somewhere inside, something warmed. In the med bay, the lead doctor reviewed their post-fusion vitals. You understand this shouldn't be possible, she said, scrolling through the data. Cross-species psychic linking, especially in combat conditions. It rewrites neural pathways. This isn't just adaptation. It's evolution. Elias shrugged. We didn't plan it. Sarah added. We didn't want it. But you did it anyway, the doctor said. And that's the problem. People will come looking. Arcanites. Governments. Maybe even your own species, Sarah. Sarah's expression hardened. Let them. Elias looked at her. You're not scared. Terrified, she said. But I'd rather be hunted and free than safe and caged. That night, Elias couldn't sleep. He stood on the upper deck under the glass dome again, the stars above clearer than ever. The pain in his body was constant now, but dull, manageable, familiar. What kept him up was the question that had started circling in his mind since the battle ended. What now? He heard footsteps behind him, then felt her presence. You always come up here alone, she said. I used to come up here because I didn't want to talk. And now I'm not sure if I want to talk or not be alone. She moved beside him. They stood shoulder to shoulder, looking at the stars. They still look different to me, she said. I think they're supposed to. But sometimes, I wonder if maybe the difference is just in my head. He looked at her. Everything we see is filtered through who we are. She met his gaze. And this time, she didn't look away. He reached for her hand. She let him take it. The contact was light. No fire. No fusion. Just a human hand holding an alien one under the sky. But it was enough to say what neither of them had the strength or the courage to say out loud. That whatever came next, they weren't facing it alone. Not anymore. The next morning, the rebel commander met with them in the central ops room. A satellite ping had come through overnight. A deep space signal, scrambled and faint, but clearly Arcanite in origin. They're not done, the commander said. Your fusion made noise. Big noise. You're not invisible anymore. Sarah nodded. Then we need to stop hiding. Elias frowned. What are you thinking? I think, she said slowly, that if they want to study me so badly, maybe we give them something to fear instead. You want to go to them? No. I want to hit before they do. The commander raised an eyebrow. That's not what I expected from someone who just nearly died. Sarah's eyes gleamed. I didn't die. That's the point. Elias looked at her, really looked, and he realized something. This wasn't just survival anymore. This was purpose. And maybe, just maybe it was love. Rain. It wasn't common in the Nevada desert. Not anymore. But on the morning after they announced their decision to strike back, it came down in a slow, steady rhythm, soft and cleansing, as if the sky itself was washing away the ghosts of what had happened. Sarah stood alone outside the base, hood drawn up, letting the cold drops streak across her skin. She didn't shiver. Her body temperature adjusted instinctively, but she felt the weight of it anyway. The moisture, the silence, the strange peace after a storm that hadn't fully passed. She'd never seen real rain before. On her world, precipitation was crystalline, sharp, fractal, beautiful and deadly. But this human version, it was quiet, gentle, messy. It reminded her of them, of everything she didn't expect to feel when she first fell into this strange world, of the man who had refused to leave her behind, even when she told him to, even when it could have killed him. Elias found her there an hour later, his jacket soaked, his steps slow from lingering pain. He moved beside her, not saying anything at first. She looked at him sideways. Most humans avoid standing in the rain. Most humans don't know how rare rain is anymore, he said. And I'm not most humans. No, she said softly. You're not. They stood there for a while. Then she said, I keep thinking I'll wake up, that I'm still in that cell. That everything since then, your voice, your arms pulling me up, the sky, this base, even this rain, was a hallucination designed to break me softer. Elias turned to her, his eyes clear despite the water dripping from his lashes. You're awake. She looked away. Am I? Because I don't know what I'm supposed to do now. You're not supposed to do anything. She was silent. I mean it, he said. You don't owe anyone a next move. You've already given more than most people give in a lifetime. That's not how I was raised. Then maybe it's time to stop living by the rules that broke you. Later, in the comms room, they watched the decrypted message the rebels intercepted from the Arcanite command. It was brief, static clicks, a rotating glyph, and a phrase in rough translation. Class Zeta, 93 confirmed bonded. Human contact escalated. Extraction priority, extreme. Sarah's name, their fusion, their bond. A warning. They're afraid of you, Elias said. They should be, but they'll come harder next time. I know, you still want to fight. Sarah looked at him. No, that surprised him, but I want to choose what happens next. I've never had that. You do now. I want to use what I become. Not for them, not even for revenge. Just to be something more than a specimen. Elias nodded. That's worth fighting for. That evening, they sat across from each other in a small corner of the mess hall, far from the hum of planning and mission talk. They shared food quietly, simple rations, warmed and barely seasoned, but it felt like a feast. Sarah reached out and took Elias's hand, fingers locking with his. Her skin was warm now, soft where it wasn't scarred. I don't understand everything about humans, she said. He smirked. Most of us don't, but I think I'm starting to understand you. Oh yeah. You don't save people because you're a hero. You save them because you can't stand to watch someone be crushed the way you were. He paused, the smile fading. You saved me too, he said. How? By letting me be something other than a weapon. Sarah leaned closer. You're more than that. So are you. They didn't need to say what it meant. The bond between them wasn't about biology or species. It wasn't even about trauma. It was about two lives, once shattered, now growing together like broken bone, stronger at the fracture. The rebels would plan missions. The Arcanites would retaliate. There would be more battles, more scars, more moments when everything felt like it was about to collapse. But for now, there was this. A pause, a quiet night, a breath, and a future neither of them had expected. Later that night, as they lay side by side on a makeshift bunk, his arm under her shoulders, her body curled toward his, Elias whispered, Do you ever wish things had happened differently? Sarah didn't answer right away. Then, if they had, I wouldn't have found you. He turned his head, kissed her temple. Then I don't wish anything different either. Somewhere far above them, another storm gathered. Satellites blinked red. War machines stirred. The next fight would come. But for now, beneath this fragile roof, in the arms of the person who made survival worth it, they just rested, together. 3 months later, Outer Rim Station, Atlas 3, location, classified. The stars were different here, less chaotic, more structured, as if someone had rearranged them into purpose after years of war. Sarah stood in the docking bay, hands behind her back, watching the approach of a rebel stealth ship through reinforced glass. Her reflection looked stronger than she remembered, clearer. No more sedation lines, no more cracked armor, no more restraint scars. Just a blue-skinned survivor in her own command jacket. No insignias, no rank. She didn't need them anymore. Behind her, the crew moved like clockwork. Mixed species task force, human engineers, alien tacticians, exiles, volunteers, fighters from places no one dared map. At the heart of them, the woman who once had no name, and the man who had come for her when no one else would. Elias stepped off the arriving ship, limping slightly but grinning. Traffic's worse than I expected, he said as he approached her. You're late, Sarah replied. You say that like you didn't reprogram the station clocks again. She raised an eyebrow. They were incorrect. Time's a human illusion anyway. Exactly why I control it now. He stopped in front of her. She didn't smile, but her eyes softened. He leaned in and kissed her cheek. She let him. Inside the central chamber of Atlas III, they reviewed the incoming data together. The Arcanite mainframe had gone silent 2 weeks earlier. Their central command was fragmenting. Sarah had planted that seed when she destroyed the collector. The neural cascade had carried more than power. It had broadcast their bond, their defiance, into Arcanite neural space. It hadn't just crippled the machine. It had infected an empire with the idea that domination could be resisted. Now splinter groups were contacting Atlas III. Aliens who once hunted Sarah were defecting. Rebels across 4 systems were asking for guidance. And she was no longer just a survivor. She was the symbol of what came next. In their shared quarters, Spartan but calm, Elias unpacked a battered metal box. Inside were photographs, maps, old uniform patches, memories. He laid them on the table. Sarah sat across from him. "You're finally ready to let go of all that?" she asked. "No," he said. "I'm ready to stop letting it control me." She nodded. "Do you regret staying?" he asked. "With you?" "No. Here. Earth space. These people. This fight." She thought for a moment, then shook her head. "You gave me a choice. That was enough." "I didn't give it," he said. "You took it." She reached across the table and laced her fingers through his. The room went quiet, and in the quiet, they found something rare in a galaxy built on war. Peace. 1 year later, humans would name the treaty after her, the Sarah Accord, the first multi-species agreement recognizing neural fusion as protected ground. It banned the weaponization of psychic bonds and granted sanctuary to all refugees of forced experimentation. She never signed it publicly, neither did Elias, but their story made it possible. Their names whispered through border colonies and deep stations like myth. The girl who survived dissection, the man who saved her, the two who fused not by power, but by choice. They were never interested in medals. They were only interested in building something that might outlast them. Some nights, when the fighting grew distant and silence returned, Elias would lie awake in their quarters, Sarah beside him, her breath slow and steady against his chest. He'd listen to the hum of the station's life systems and wonder how he'd made it here. Not just across stars, but back from whatever darkness had eaten the version of himself who once believed he had nothing left. Sarah would wake sometimes, sensing his thoughts. She'd place her hand on his heart and remind him, without words, that he was still there, still whole, still loved. And maybe that was the point of everything. Not survival, not revenge, but return. To yourself, to another, to something real. If you felt this story in your chest, if you've ever believed that even the most broken souls can find connection beyond species, war, or past mistakes, leave a comment, share this story, and subscribe to the channel. Because we've got more love, more war, and more impossible stories waiting for you right here.